The Wormkeeper's Ledger. You know that moment when you realize you've crossed a line? It hits you like the wind being knocked out of you. The sensation of betrayal, not just from those around you, but from a part of yourself that you thought you could trust. I had that moment the night of my father's funeral. A day I thought would bring closure, but instead ignited the very flames of my obsession. I stood there surrounded by family. They whispered, heads tilted, their eyes filled with pity or disdain. "Look at him," they murmured, "still chasing those ridiculous theories." My heart thrummed in my chest, a wild bird desperate to escape its cage. I had spent years becoming a pariah, my name synonymous with madness after I dared to suggest that parasitic entities could influence human behavior. My once promising career in infectious disease turned to ash, and now I was a family disgrace. "Just leave him be," my mother had said, tears slicking her cheeks. "He's lost in his own world." The weight of her words crushed me. They had mocked my relentless studies into the occult aspects of parasitology, my passion for uncovering the hidden connections between the mind and these vile creatures. But no one understood, no one could grasp the horrors I had faced. Years passed, and my obsession morphed into a calling. I traveled to forgotten towns, dusty libraries, and crumbling archives, documenting every unnatural infestation I could find. I became an expert in a world that others dared not acknowledge. With each discovery, I felt the grip of the darkness tighten around me. Yet I persevered. I was no longer the boy they'd scorned. I was now a man of knowledge, a harbinger of truths that would shake the foundations of disbelief. Returning home felt like stepping back into a nightmare. The house was unchanged, a mausoleum of memories. I entered, the air thick with unspoken resentment and lost opportunities. I was met with cautious glances, whispers that slid through the air like daggers. The family had gathered, a council of judgment, their faces masks of anxiety and disbelief. "Why are you here?" my sister Margaret asked, her voice laced with a mixture of fear and disdain. "Because I need you to see," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor inside me. "I need you to witness what I've uncovered." They exchanged glances, as if contemplating whether to laugh or scorn me further. But I pressed on, pulling a leather-bound journal from my bag. The pages were filled with meticulous notes, sketches of the grotesque hosts of parasitological curses I had encountered. I opened it, revealing a horrific illustration of a creature, a sentient colony of parasites that could manipulate human thought and action. "Look!" I urged, desperation clawing at my throat. "These are not just theories. These are realities. They exist. They're everywhere." But their laughter rang out, hollow and cruel. "You've lost it, haven't you?" my brother scoffed. "You think you've become some kind of expert on monsters?" And it was then that I felt it, the shift in the air, a chill creeping down my spine. The shadows in the room thickened, coiling around me like a serpent ready to strike. "Leave," I commanded, my voice growing louder. "You need to understand what I've seen, what's coming." But they dismissed me, their laughter echoing in my ears. Drowning out the warnings I tried to convey, I felt the darkness pressing in, and in that moment of realization, I understood I had brought something with me, a consequence of my journey, a darkness that thrived on disbelief. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye. The shadows in the corners of the room twisted, contorting into shapes that defied logic. I stood frozen, my heart racing, as the air grew thick with a palpable dread. My family's laughter faltered, replaced by gasps of horror. "What's happening?" my mother whispered, her voice trembling. And then I saw them, tiny figures emerging from the walls, crawling over the furniture, their grotesque forms illuminated by the flickering light. The sentient parasites, the very entities I had dedicated my life to studying, had come to bear witness to my family's disbelief. They slithered across the floor, their movements synchronized like a macabre dance. And I knew then that they had heard me, that they were here to make my family understand. "Look closely," I whispered, my voice a ragged murmur. "These are the consequences of mocking the unknown." The room erupted into chaos. My family scrambled back, eyes wide with terror, as they realized the truth I had carried for so long. I felt a dark satisfaction surge within me, knowing they were finally facing the horror they had deemed a figment of my imagination. As the creatures swarmed, a chilling tableau unfolded, my family, who had ridiculed me, now confronting the very darkness they had dismissed. I stood in the center, a witness to their unraveling, my heart heavy with the weight of vindication. When the chaos subsided, shadows receded into the corners, leaving my family breathless and pale. They looked at me, their expressions shifting from disbelief to a haunting understanding. We didn't believe you," my mother stammered. Her eyes glistening with tears. We were wrong. I stepped forward, feeling the burden of my journey pressing against my chest. "You mocked the unknown," I replied, my voice steady. "But now you see." As I left the house, the air outside felt lighter, the weight of the past lifting. They would carry the scars of their disbelief, a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the unseen corners of the world. I had survived the horrors they could never face. But at what cost? I walked away from my family, knowing that the ledger of karma had been balanced, but a part of me mourned for the lost connection. I was no longer the boy they had scorned. I was the worm keeper, burdened with knowledge that would forever separate me from the light.